Here the sorceresses come in, they slow about half of the orc army, and the area of effect damage begins. And you're going to see that he places that pocket factory right in the middle of this little field that they're fighting in, and that forces the orc player to go kind of around it one way or the other in order to get at the back line of the human player, which is what orc players typically want to do. Think about it for a second. The orc player typically will build an army that is designed to counter those casters. You're going to have grunts, you're going to have raiders, and they want so bad to speed scroll their units and get them into your riflemen and get them into your casters where they can really wreak havoc, cause you to have to move your casters and riflemen around quite a bit, and basically they're just going to get slaughtered. But by using that pocket factory, he's able to force them to move around the pocket factory or to focus fire the pocket factory, one or the other. Either way, it either creates a choke point where he can kind of force his army into that choke point and then use that great area of effect damage, or if they all decide to focus on the pocket factory itself, well then all those melee units are gathering up right on top of that pocket factory, and that makes a great target once again for his area of effect. So that's kind of how that pocket factory plays into the strategy, and it enables you to maximize the damage that your much higher level heroes are then able to do with their area of effect. So again, he just wants to continue creeping. He's level 4 and 3, and his opponent is still at 3 and 1, almost level 2 on the Tauren Chieftain, but not quite yet. So the riflemen now are going to be nice for collapse, given the fact that they do have a couple of wind riders out, the orc player does. So that is going to turn out to really help him in terms of having them countered. And if you look at his base, he's now thrown up a second expansion to his left, and he's continuing to pump units out of his sanctums. At this point, he is getting his adept training on both of those sanctums. So he finishes creeping this spot, gets a couple of items, and now he will TP right in on top of the orc army. And again, you'll get to see him use the pocket factory to create little obstructions and little choke points so that he can get the most damage out of his area of effect. He throws one up, he moves his casters back out of the way, and now the orc player, except for the wind riders, who obviously can fly in over top of things, everybody else is now slowed. They've got to come in through that little choke point there, and the blizzard is just taking units out left and right. Now, a couple of finer points here as you're going to see the orc player TPs out. I was actually able to private message back and forth with Collapse about this game, which he provided this game for me, and then I was able to kind of chat with him about it and find out, well, what are some of the finer points? What are some of the things that I might not pick up on just in watching it? And one of the things that he pointed out that I thought was a good point was that when you're doing this, a lot of players will be tempted to use rockets first, because you do get that 1 second of stun, thinking, oh, I'll stun them, and then I'll throw Blizzard on top of that. Well, what he says is a good player is going to recognize, oh, he just went rockets on me, I better get my guys out of the way because I know Blizzard is coming. So what he likes to do is he lets that first wave of Blizzard come down, and then he throws the rockets at his opponent to stun them and hold them into position for just a little bit longer, which will allow his Blizzard to get an extra couple of waves of damage in. So, you know, you can get 3 or 4 waves of damage out of a high-level Blizzard, and that's a lot of damage because that's doing, I mean, his Arch Mage is already level 5, and as he goes up here, he buys a couple of healing scrolls, which are obviously going to be key when you have a fragile, all-caster army. Notice also that he will end up putting a potion of invulnerability on each of his heroes. Once again, the heroes are the key to the strategy. They're the ones that are doing the damage. So you've got to keep your heroes in the battle. They've got to be able to do their thing, or else you're really not going to have enough damage output. But as I was saying, level 3 Blizzard does 50 damage per wave. So if you get off, for example, 4 waves of Blizzard and level 2 rockets on your opponent, that's 265 points of damage to, you know, maybe 5 or 6 units. That's like doing a level 2 bolt simultaneously to 5 or 6 of your opponent's units. That's some pretty serious damage. So that's how the strategy is able to be effective. So again, watch how positioning plays a key role here in this final battle. There are 2 choke points. The Orc player can't really even get to his army between the tavern and the pocket factory. Only the Wind Riders are able to get anywhere. Even with the speed scroll, his army is forced to try and kind of run around the map, trying to get around the obstruction of the pocket factory. And level 3 Blizzard is just absolutely annihilating his entire army. That, along with the rockets, is just doing way too much damage. The Tauren Chieftain will go down here, and basically that's it. That's the end of that game. So, positioning is a huge deal. It's something that very, very good players understand how important it is, but anywhere from good to beginning players often don't understand the importance of positioning every time you get into a battle. And you could see just how critical that was here in this game. Using the pocket factory, Collapse was able to force his opponent into choke points or into the option of trying to take down that pocket factory, which once again just enables him to squeeze every last drop of damage out of his area of effect. And when that is the strategy you're going for, you need to get those heroes leveled up. You need to keep them protected and enable them to do as much damage as possible. If you can do that, you can really be successful, even against these really sturdy Orc units like the Grunts and the Raiders, who typically are difficult to take down unless you're able to really focus fire them. So with the area of effect, you're able to do a tremendous amount of damage, take out really the entire army that the Orc had assembled there with just a couple of area of effect spells. Now, going back to the idea here that this is a little bit of a variation off of what would normally be kind of a cookie-cutter strat by getting the Tinker. Some people might be asking the question, well, why not just go ahead and get the Mountain King here instead? What's the advantage of the Tinker? There probably isn't a huge difference. You could use Mountain King and still be very effective here. You could use Clap to do a good amount of damage, even more damage than the rockets do, and it slows and the movement and attack rate of your opponent as well, allowing you to Blizzard right on top of them and maximize the damage that you can do there. However, having said that, there are a couple of nice deals with the Tinker. For one, in order to use Thunderclap, you've got to get your Mountain King right out in the middle of that Orc army. And you run the risk of getting your Mountain King ensnared and focused down pretty quickly. Typically, you're going to damage your own Mountain King when you use Blizzard because you've got him right out in the middle of everything that you're trying to hit with your Blizzard spell. So those are a couple of things that are, yes, you can work around that, and frequently people are able to use the Mountain King very effectively in that way. But with the Tinker, you don't get quite as much stun. You get just, I think it's 1 second of stun on those rockets. However, you're able to do that with a ranged attack. So the Tinker can remain a little further away from the front lines and still do some good area of effect damage and a little bit of stun, and you've got enough sorceresses that you're going to slow down the vast majority of the Orc army, and that combined with the Pocket Factory, which once again enables you to gain an advantage in terms of positioning. And that really that's a huge deal when you're fighting human versus Orc. The Orc player wants so badly to speed scroll his Grunts and his Raiders and his Tauren Chieftain right into your back line where he can just annihilate all your casters and riflemen, as I said before. And if he's not able to do that, that's going to really hinder his ability to do a lot of damage to your army. So, again, the Pocket Factory enables you to create those choke points, or it forces him to focus it. And hey, either one works out okay for you. So you were able to see basically how the strategy works. And there's one last thing I want to touch on just very quickly before signing out here, and that is, this is a map, Phantom Grove, that is one of the new ladder maps. Obviously, they're not so new anymore. They've been out for quite some time now, but I did talk to Collapse a little bit about these new maps and what does he do to learn the maps, and again, if you can learn these new maps and know them quite well, with the exception of the highest level of players, you can again gain an advantage just by knowing the map a little bit. And what he does, obviously, he just kind of loads up a game against the computer and uses whatever cheat code it is that you use to turn the fog of war off, and then you just scrutinize the map. And what he discovered when he looked at Phantom Grove was that, hey, there's a whole lot of creep camps here that are primarily piercing damage. And so he immediately thought, gosh, I could blizzard creep these with a couple of defended footmen and really level up my heroes very quickly. So, again, that's a key part of the strategy. If you can level up your heroes that are doing area of effect damage, that's going to make a huge difference. And that's exactly what he was able to do here. You see the score in this game collapses at almost 83,000 compared to only 50,000 from LK Mao. I mean, that's a very decisive win. And that just goes right back to the number of units he was able to take out using Blizzard with those high-level heroes. So, anyways, take advantage of being able to take a look at some of those newer maps, really scrutinize them, try and figure out where you might be able to gain an advantage, either with creeping or whether there are choke points on the map that you can exploit, etc. If you can learn these new maps a little bit better than your opponent knows them, that can give you enough of an advantage, once again, to make a difference between a win and a loss. So, kind of a cool deal. Hopefully, you guys all picked something up in this audio commentary that is helpful. And, yeah, leave me some feedback, and I'd love to hear from you guys how I can do a better job in the future. Thanks a lot, guys, and I'll be talking to you later. Peace.